And you're listening to Smooth, the 98.1 at Love Music, Love Life. It's a smooth breakfast show. And of course, when it's 7:30, it's time for our in-depth newspaper analysis show, Freshly Pressed 981. My name is Judith Atibi. Good morning to you and welcome to the show. Joining me live inside the studio is our very intellectual analyst today, and one of them is in full regalia. So when I say intellectual, I mean that for a fact. Joining me today is Ugo Dre and Oji Uka. You guys, good morning to you both.
Hi, good morning, Barrister Ojikuka.
Barrister Oji Ukar.
Just Oji is fine.
Maggie.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning to you. And of course, Ugo is looking dapper as usual.
Thank
You can
you,
catch
Judith.
us live on YouTube. We're streaming live right now on YouTube. So go onto YouTube. We're at Smooth981 on YouTube and go catch the action live. As always, join the conversation. Send us your comments as well inside the show as we share reactions to the story today on our WhatsApp platform. The number is 0809 444 Again, 0809 444 Let's get started, shall we? Oji, I'm going to come to you for this one. I'm taking this from Punch newspaper. It's gotten quite the reaction this morning inside of Business Express with 49% foreign ownership. Nigeria Air starts operations April 2022. The proposed national carrier will begin flight in April next year, with the Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, has said. The development came 3 years after the federal government announced plans to establish a new national carrier following the liquidation of the Nigerian Airways in 2003. Oji.
Okay, so let me start by saying that I have nothing against a national carrier. If anything, I think it should be a positive. It has more positives than negative on if we are all things being equal. I'm from the southeast. We go home every Christmas. You can imagine what it costs to book flights. Firstly, for the past 1 or 2 months, there are no available flights last week of December to the southeast. The one when you find one, it could be as high as 60,000 naira one way. So all of these things will mean that it can only get better when you have a national carrier. I hope. That said, there are also other positives. They claim that it will create 70,000 jobs. Obviously, it can also come with huge positives for Nigeria in terms of the branding and all of that. But that said, we have been on this for a long time. My own question is if this airline is to start operations in 5 months' time, we do not know anything yet. So the plan is, according to them, the structure of the proposed airline is that the government will not own more than 5% of it. According to them, 46% will be owned by Nigerian entrepreneurs, and then 49% to be held by strategic equity partners. Everyone agrees that these are foreign equity partners. That's why they said 49% foreign ownership. And this will be sourced during the procurement phase. My question is, if you are yet to carry out this procurement, why are you telling us the airline will start operations in 5 months' time? When do you intend to carry out this procurement? And if the federal government is to own only 5%, truly speaking, how come they know so much about the airline in terms of when it's going to commence, in terms of how many jobs it's going to create? If you want to privatize, if you want to have the private sector in charge of something, hand it over to the private sector. You cannot be government claiming that you want to own 5%, and yet you are the person who is dictating everything about it. So it still does not smell right to me. If it turns out good, I'll be happy. As I've already mentioned at the beginning, I'll be one of the beneficiaries. Although what I already spent to get a flight to go home for Christmas this year, I won't get it back. But if they start, it will be a good thing. But I am, for now, a naysayer.
Ugo, do you want to react to the story as well? Because I see you looking at him. Because there's a question here. I'm trying to see if I can get it. It was from Gilbert Musa inside of Business Express. And even Rotas himself was complaining about, not really complaining, but just looking at the prospects of it in terms of like profitability, that many national carriers, take for example, Ethiopian Airways, South African Airways, they are not in terms of like profitability. It's not so much for them, and that for South Africa, they're still like in a loss even before COVID-19. And we've seen Virgin Airlines exit the nation. We've seen Nigeria Airways being liquidated in
Without underground.
2003. So is this even the right move in terms of profitability for the nation?
Well, so I think it's very important to put this into context, right? Or to analyze it very well. So, and then make some assumptions. And let's assume that they do run this very well, right? Meaning, we're not in the era of Nigerian Airways where, people can just fly for free and, government officials will just use that as some kind of free pass to get around the world. So let's just assume it's run professionally, right? There's actually a strategic reason why some countries actually need to own national airlines. And one of the major reasons is Forex. A lot of people just don't know. So if you go and look at the amount of Forex Nigeria spends every year, we spend north of $5 billion, I think on a monthly basis or so, on foreign travel, or on a quarterly basis on travel, business travel, PTA and all of that. And even the amount of money we spend, on airlines, because if you're going to purchase airline tickets, particularly foreign airline tickets, it's in dollars. So we do spend a significant amount of money on dollars in this country. So for some countries, they strategically just leave these airlines to help reduce capital exploitation, amount of capital you have leaving the country, so that you can just keep some of your dollar earnings here.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily because it has to be extremely profitable or even profitable. So sometimes it's just that margin. So for me, it's really the thinking behind it that matters. I don't know, maybe the government is not communicating very well, or maybe this is really not the thing. But if this is the thinking and there's a clear strategy for this, I think it does make sense. And I think because if Ethiopian Airline is doing it, South African Airlines, Kenya Airways is doing it, I think it just makes sense that on the west coast of Africa, you should have a flagship national airline. So that's why I said there's a lot of assumptions. And my assumption is that it is done well, and that you do have a lot of private sector participation.
Nice, good stuff. Join the
And by the
conversation.
way,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
In case Nigerians don't know, Nigerian government already owns two airlines. They've
Yes,
been running
that's
Arik and they've been running Aero
Aero.
because they're owned by
Yeah,
Amcon.
Icon. All right, let's move on, shall we? We're going to Subsidy now. I'm coming to you for this one. It's from Punch newspaper. It's the Nigerians to spend 6.7 trillion naira on fuel in 2022. NLC Senate fought 5,000 naira palliative. Nigerians will spend about 6.7 trillion naira on the purchase of petrol within a period of 12 months once the federal government stops subsidizing the commodity from February next year. Investigations have revealed. Now, this came to the fore on Wednesday as the Nigeria Labour Congress described government's plan as a penny-wise pound foolish gamble. The Senate and economic experts also faulted the federal government's plan to pay 5,000 naira each to 40 million Nigerians to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Ugo.
I'm sure this is a story that will dominate
Yesterday, today, it's been wild.
all week. First of all, flashback, 10 years, Oji, 10 years since that very infamous subsidy removal, that Goodluck Jonathan tried to do in 2011. Some of us who were against it at that time, sometimes when we look back, we just sort of regret, maybe perhaps we probably should have just, let that happen, because that was really the best time. They were very close to getting it done, but all the demonstrations and all that. Now we're here 10 years after. This has now become a huge stone, our neck, like it's just weighing us down. Right. So, but subsidy removal, excuse me, you have to look at subsidy removal from different dimensions. So there is an economic benefit of removing subsidy, and then there are consequences as well. Benefit is that if we're spending this much on subsidy, close to 3 trillion per annum on subsidy, for a government that has been running a deficit, not just this government alone, previous government, for over a decade, I think that it's really poor user funds. And it's even more annoying that you're subsidizing a product that you actually import, a byproduct that you import, even though the source product itself, petroleum, is something that you export. So that's even what's more annoying. And despite the fact that this has been going on for 10 years, we actually still haven't been able to fix our refineries for 10 years. So we've actually had enough time for the government to actually put a lot of structures in place to replace, no pun intended, to replace fuel subsidy. So that's why this is actually a bit annoying. You do need to remove fuel subsidy, but a lot of the work that you need to do to actually get subsidy removed, you actually haven't done that. So everyone has been waiting for the Dangote refinery for better part of half a decade, and that refinery is not likely to come on stream to another 2-3 years. So, but the government does need to take subsidy off the table. So we're actually between a rock and a hard place, and the implication is that once it is removed, we all know how we cried for inflation last year, this year, 2 years ago. It's been very tough for everyone. You've seen prices of goods and services skyrocket. You've seen the consequences from some, whether it's shrinkflation, or cost of bread doubling, cost of pure water doubling, even your sachet of milk is now half. Different things. These are consequences. So if you take these out, inflation rate is going to go up again. People are going to find it very hard to leave. It's just the natural thing that will happen, right? And that's probably what Labour, is crying about. Now, so, but then the government, the other part of the story, of course, is the 5,000 naira one, and that's the one that really, it's funny. 5,000 naira is a lot of money for some people on a monthly basis, right? And in some countries that are very rich, they can afford to give 5,000 naira or any amount of money, on a monthly basis. And we've seen this happen a lot this year. It's People call it helicopter money. It's almost like just going in the air
In
and
the
just
air.
sprinkling money and giving people money. That's what it is. And it's kind of strange that the kind of world we're in now, this is now allowed, right? Where people are just given money, as some kind of palliative. And by the way, the government has been doing this for the last 2-3 years. All this conditional cash, blah blah. It's all helicopter money. So it's nothing new. It's something that they have been doing. So when I even see reports of, oh, did they have a database? Or please, they know who they give the money to. And I don't think it's that difficult to actually find people to give that money to, or to get to account for that money. And let's also remember that one of the reasons why you actually have e-naira is to solve things like this, because with e-naira it becomes very, very easy to have this money sent to people and you can actually trace it. But the point is, is that a better substitute for subsidy? Here's what I think the government is trying to do. They're trying to be very, very funny. They want to sacrifice 2.4 trillion, which is the 5,000 naira times 40 million times 12, for 1 year, right? Just take subsidy, we give Nigerians this one, and then after 1 year to just die down, and then the next government comes in and that becomes their own headache. And then that, okay, it's just 2.4 million down, rather than just spending 2.8 or 3 million on subsidy year on year on and all that. That seems like what they're trying to do. But like I said, what they should have done all along, Judith, was to have put the right infrastructure in place. We've talked about. I remember in 2011 when a lot of people were against fuel subsidy, people were saying sort out the refineries, build roads, let's have massive transportation, rails, and so that people won't even feel the effect.
Of that.
No, everyone doesn't need to have a car, right? There are some countries today where people who are so-called top 5-10% don't even drive cars to work.
And even the middle class.
Yes, so so I think it's going to be a hot debate, and the cornerstone of all this is that we are between a rock and a hard place. There is no decision that we will take that is good. Whether we say we want to drop fuel subsidy or keep it, it is not good, right? So at the end of the day, we'll have to look at it, longer term. And I think longer term, if I'm going to take a position, longer term, we just got to bite the bullet. We have just got to bite the bullet, and that is take subsidy away and then power pressure on government to ensure that you have refineries, and then you have the right infrastructure, and you have the right transportation network. And of course, power is very important as well.
Power is important indeed. We have a message here from Vincent from Adiba. And on the national airline, he goes, "Good morning, crew. Having a national airline is a good idea. However, how many Nigerians can afford the airfare? Our politicians and government officials do things that will only benefit them. They should fix roads, and on the 5,000 naira palliative for transportation. Vincent goes, this our government is a joker. The 5,000 naira they want to dole out is a way to siphon money. Government should buy buses for the masses. Where are the data of the 40 million Nigerians? And the government wants to give 5,000 naira. And this is Idima Puza from Surulere. I think you sent both message the same thing. It goes, why is 5,000 naira coming close to political elections? Another style of empowering cronies. Why not use the funds to boost our refineries to make the products available and cheaper, or boost electricity or infrastructure so that many Nigerians would benefit? Nobody should annoy me. Oh. Natural Medima there. Let's move on here. Audrey, I'm coming to you for this one. From Premium Times, EFCC places Governor Willie Obiano on watch list ahead of the March 16, 2022 change of government in Anambra State. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has placed the outgoing governor of the state, Willie Obiano, on watch list in a letter to the Comptroller General of the Nigeria Immigration Service dated November 15th, 2021. The commission requested the service to place the governor on watch list and inform it any time is traveling out of the country from any of the international airports and other ports of entry and exit.
Okay, so let me start from what we know. The Section 306 of the Constitution provides what we know as immunity to four office holders in Nigeria: the president, the vice president, the governors, and deputy governors. That immunity covers arrest. You cannot arrest one. You cannot imprison them, obviously. You cannot prosecute them for a criminal charge. You cannot sue them in a civil suit in that capacity. And you can even summon them compulsorily as a witness in a case. Now, what a lot of people do not know is that immunity does not extend to investigation. So obviously, the law enforcement agents, as we mentioned now, EFCC, can carry out discrete investigations on these persons. So without speculating, it would only make sense that they had been carrying out investigations on him, and they hope to swoop on him once he loses that immunity. That's it. All we can do is, like I always like to say on this show, is to give the law enforcement agencies the benefit of the doubt that they know what they're doing, and because if indeed he has committed an infractable offense for which he should be prosecuted when he leaves office, it should go against him. But there is precedent for the EFCC wanting to go after a governor after he leaves office, and that was in my state. In 2007, what did he do? He left on the eve of his swearing, of the eve of his successor swearing in. He still had immunity. They could not arrest him, and he left the country. And by the time he came back, you didn't hear him. So all Obiano needs to do is to leave the country a day before, and nothing will happen to him. Of course, I'm not giving him advice to leave the country.
Of course,
I
you're
expect that if he's a man of his word, if he's a man of
Integrity.
honor and integrity, he should respond to this and say, I'm here. If you have anything against me, once I leave office, come and I'll answer all your questions. That's what I expect him to say.
Let's move on now to Vanguard. Lagos and Kano and Lagos demand 1% in revenue allocation formula. Governor Abdullahi Ganduje of Kano State says Kano and Lagos states are demanding for 1% in the new nation's revenue allocation formula. The demand is contained in a statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary CPS of the governor, Mr. Abba Anwar, issued on Tuesday in Kano. Anwar said that Ganduje made the case when his Lagos State counterpart, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, paid a condolence visit over the death of Aliko Dangote's brother, Sani Dangote. And this goes on and on, but Ugo, your thoughts on the story?
Well, like I've always said on this program, it's all about the money, right? Whether it's ASU, or whether it's fight VAT revenue share, or whether it's who has the most population, whose state has the most population. At the heart of everything that Nigeria, particularly politicians, discourse is just money. It's really about who gets what. It's not about work. So I do, agree to a large extent that yes, Kano and Lagos State economically, strategically, are very important states in this country. But please, by no means should they get anything extra. That's my own opinion. It's just like maybe London asking for more compared to Manchester, or New York asking for more
Instead
compared
of
to.
Texas.
I mean, like, doesn't make sense. I think that the strength in both states actually it's within. It comes, because of the kind of population they have, the strategic position they are in the economy. So there's a lot that they can do, and the reason why Lagos State gets the most IGR today is because most of the productive workforce in the country is in the state. So all you need to do is, people need to see the impact of the taxes that you're paying already, right? So when are you going to finish the Fort Mainland Bridge that you've been talking about, particularly this particular government for years? When are you going to build all the coastal roads that you've been talking about for years? When are you going to do? Because people pay taxes. So let's see these things. To be fair to them, we've seen a lot of work done, particularly this government, but we need to see more. And I don't think that getting an extra amount of money from the government it's the way to go. I think there are probably more states who need more support from the government just because of the way, life is. I mean, you can't have, children from the same father and everyone doing very well. It hardly happens. So you gotta have those. There's some out there that you need help for. So I don't agree with this in any way. Given because of their mega cities and blah. Please. Please, I mean, like, look inwards, and this is the same Ganduje that. Anyway, let's don't go there.
Let's not go there. We have messages here on YouTube. This is Ayokunle Olubumi, and it goes, please ask Ugo how profitable this national airlines owned by African countries are. Aviation business has thin margins, even the privately owned ones that are effectively run. While it may be something we believe that we need, the question while it may be something we believe that we need, the question is if it is the most effective use of our scarce resources. The question is if it is the most effective use of our scarce resources. This is Joy here, and she goes, use the money from subsidy to build a power plant or increase transmission lines or meter every single house. This will benefit the rich and the poor equally rather than the 5,000 looting strategy.
So can I respond to that quickly?
Sure,
Just to add, because I mean I mentioned it earlier, but maybe I didn't mention it well. I think that there's also a lot of intervention funds that have gone into particularly the power sector, the aviation sector, led by the CBN. So people tend to forget that over between 2 to 3 trillion. I think I saw the other day in the news 800 and something billion or so given to discos or meters. So there's a lot of funds going in that direction, and I'm kind of positive that within the next 2 to 3 years things might be a little different. Not an excuse, by the way, for the subsidy debate, but it's important to put that out there.
All right, let's move on, guys. We have a minute each for this next stories that we're taking because we're pretty much out of time. Oji, I'm going to come to you for this one. From Premium Times, Nigerian lawmakers reject bill to empower Nigerians to sue government for not providing basic welfare. I promise you this headline is real. The House of Representatives has rejected a bill seeking to make the provision of basic welfare compulsory. The bill, sponsored by CGS Ogun, PDP, Edo, sought to amend Section 6 of the 99 Constitution by allowing the judiciary to entertain cases on the provision of basic welfare as contained in Sections 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Okay, I wish I had more than 1 minute, but let me try.
Okay, I'll give you some more.
So, okay, I'll try not to speak too much legalese for this. So the Constitution gives judicial powers to our courts and says the extent of that judicial power. So, for example, it includes the determination of the rights and obligations of individuals and the government. Now, there is a limitation to judicial powers, and that is found in Section 660 of the Constitution. So it says, provided that judicial powers vested in accordance with this section shall not extend to any issue or question as to whether any act or omission by any authority, that's government, as to whether any law or judicial decision is in conformity or otherwise with the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy in Chapter 2 of the Constitution. That brings me to Chapter 2 of the Constitution. Chapter 2 of the Constitution sets out what they refer to as fundamental objectives and directive principles that guide the government. The sections you mentioned, again, briefly, Section 14 deals with security and welfare, 15 deals with national integration, 16 economic ideals of government, 17 social ideals, 18 equal educational opportunities, 19 foreign policy objectives, 20 environment, and then 21 deals with promotion of Nigerian culture. What that Section 660 says is that if you believe that the government is not playing its part really, for example, using sexual security and welfare, if you feel that the government is not providing for security, and obviously we know that they are not, at least not to the extent that we require or request that they should do, you cannot sue them. That's what that section 660 does. So what National Assemblies or what the bill sponsor here tried to do, and this didn't start today. I believe it was introduced in Nigeria in 1979 when we had that our first presidential constitution in 1979, when they included that chapter 2 in the constitution, but in their wisdom or lack of it, depending on whose side you believe, or which side you
You're
believe,
on.
they said it is not possible for, it's not realistic for, because if the whole country goes to court against the government for failing, because right now if you can sue the government for not providing security or welfare, the entire country will go to court against Nigeria. So what the bill, those against the bill argued on the House, as I expected, where, for example, the Chief Whip Mohammed Monguno says the bill will be difficult to implement. He says it will bring chaos and anarchy if it's allowed to pass. Nicholas Osai says, okay, Nicholas Osai was the person that said they should pass it. Heman Hembe says the bill is a socialist tool that can destroy a nation. So there were just arguments here and there. So at the end of the day, Mr. Idris Wade, who was presiding, put it to vote, and the House said no to the bill. I'm not surprised, but just concluding, this exposes the confusion about constitutional amendments. For me, it is really not up to the National Assembly, a few of them there, to sit down and think that they can amend the constitution. Constitutional amendment, or rather, you can amend the constitution, but when it comes to giving Nigeria a brand new constitution, which is what we'll be asking for, it's not up to them to just sit down and argue this over 5 minutes. You need to have a proper constitutional reform conference where different people from different parts of the country will come, bring out their expertise, just the same way people in 79 felt it was not right to have it justiciable. 2021, it's possible for us to say, okay, under the circumstance, it can be justiciable. So what is now left is it depends on how brilliant your lawyer is. He can craft your case in a way that it becomes justiciable. Otherwise, you have no right of action in court.
Let's move on now to Punch newspaper. I think I'm trying to see if I can take 6 and 8, guys. Do we have enough time for 6 and 8? I don't think we do, because we're pretty much out of time. So just 1 minute each, guys. This is from Punch newspaper. Reps order probe of federal government abandoned 97 billion naira cancer center. The House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the National Cancer Control Plan established by the regime of the President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, to determine why fewer Nigerians with cancer cannot access treatment at the special centers. Oji.
Okay. Well, not a lot to say there, other than we keep having different centers, different committees, different bodies, establishing them for different things. In 2017 December, the president signed the bill to establish National Center for Cancer Research, Treatment of Cancer Patients in Nigeria. Again, 2018, the federal government launched National Cancer Control Plan. But what the House is saying here is it has not worked, because they've given numbers here. In 2018 alone, Nigeria recorded 116,000 new cancer cases, out of which 41,000 of them died. And according to the mortality rate keeps increasing, with breast and cervical cancer being the major cause of mortality cases. So they say they are worried that despite this increasing
Number of cases.
Only 4 out of the 8, so 50% of the treatment centers in the country are functional. Country with almost 200 million or more population, we shouldn't even have only 8 treatment centers. And having only 8 treatment centers, out of which only 4 are working, there's certainly something wrong with that.
And we'll come to our final story here from Punch newspaper. Lagos votes 59% for capital expenditure. Sanwo-Olu presents 1.3 trillion naira budget. The Lagos State Governor, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Wednesday presented the 2022 appropriation bill to the State House of Assembly. Sanwo-Olu presented a budget estimate of about 1.388 trillion naira, tagged budget of consolidation. Ugo.
Yes, I like that it has a lot more capital expenditure compared to recurrent expenditure. Someone aptly names this budget of consolidation, which is fine. I mean, getting to the final chapter of his first term. And so I guess this is to consolidate on some of the work that they've been doing. But like I said earlier, they need more work. But just something that I noted here as well is that this budget also has, I think, over 200 billion or so in deficit, which means that there's going to be bonds issued by Lagos State government next year. So more borrowing for Lagos State government, which, by the way, is the most indebted state, I think, in Nigeria. So their debts is just going to go a notch higher. Yeah, but 59% capital expenditure. Lagos State is indeed a rich state. Let's hope that a lot of the projects that we all want to see, particularly real big projects, that we do see them. I think that we've seen a lot of road constructions being done, but I think Lagos Lagosians yearn for top-notch project. Either it's a rail line or it's the Fourth Mainland Bridge. Something really significant, like flagship road project, is something that we need to see it here. I think it's about time. This is a metropolis. We need to see something big.
It's about time. I was relieved the studio. This is Austin from Satellite. Good morning. 2019 was trader money at 10K. 2003 is about, I think it's 2002, you mean, is about transport money, 5,000 naira. Nigerians, see what una do, una selves because of tribalism. Una never see anything yet. That's from Austin there. This is, that's a long message. I'm trying to look for the short ones. This is Bosun from Surulere. It goes, Kano asking for more on behalf of both states. Why is Kano the one asking? Did Lagos officially ask? Seems funny. Tayo here from Ajagos. Obiano should print on a T-shirt saying EFCC. I am here, like Fasha, but like Fasha Shea. I don't know. Fire Shea. I find it difficult to pronounce his name. While honoring their invitation, I would buy that shirt because I buy gas. And it's really, I buy gas with 10,000 naira. So EFCC, I'm also here as well. Ugo and Oji, thank you so much. Find Oji's on Instagram at Oji Uka and Ugo Dre at Ugo Dre, the Silver Fox.
Judith.
You should add this Silver Fox to the end of your name. Just saying. Brings us to the very end of Freshly Pressed 981. All the messages I couldn't take inside of Freshly Pressed, I would take them inside of Lagos Talks 981. Join us then at 8:10 a.m. This is Smooth Breakfast. Good morning.
The headlines, the stories, the news, in-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.
Real up, yeah.